What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of After the Credits, the review show that no one asked for. Today we are diving headfirst into Skate Story. And just rolled credits on this game, and it's got to be one of the strangest experiences that I've ever had in gaming. It's going to be a fun one to talk about. So let's just go ahead and dive right in and get the conversation going. In Skate Story, you play as the Glass Skater, a demon from the underworld who has signed a contract with the devil, and in this contract it states that he must go out and devour all of the moons in the underworld in order to reclaim his soul and inevitably escape the underworld. What a strange premise. Takes a very creative brain to come up with something like this. And that is what you're going to experience here. It's a very creative game, and that is putting it as nicely as I possibly can. It is one of the weirdest premises for a game I've ever explored, but it kind of works here. So the gameplay loop in Skate Story is very unique. Basically, each layer of the underworld has kind of a main hub area, a pseudo open world type of area that you can explore and skate around in, and there's usually a few different objectives that you have to go out and do in order to progress the story. And once you do like the little side quest for that area, it'll open a archway. You then go into the archway, and it's usually a very tight corridor, high-speed section where you're kind of flying from archway to archway on your way to the moon of that specific layer of the underworld. And then once you get to the underworld, you have this boss battle against the moon. How these boss battles work is you get into this kind of environment, you perform tricks in this area, and then what you have to do then is after you perform a long string of combos, you do another trick, and then you tap the X button to stomp the trick, and that'll essentially deal damage to the moon. And, you know, there's usually about 10 different segments that you have to wipe out of the boss. It's kind of interesting because there's not, like, let's just say you build up a combo and you stomp the combo out and you have 30,000 points, which is a ridiculous amount of points. You will only deplete the boss by one segment. So you could work up a 30,000 point combo, but if you just did a 5,000 point combo and stomped that out, it would take the same amount away from the boss. So, interesting design choice. I think that was created that way to really showcase this game's score and its music, which is phenomenal, by the way. We will get to that. But that's kind of the gameplay loop here. It's very unique. Now, to tie into the gameplay loop, we also have to mention the fact that beings that you play as a glass skater, that's a big component in the game, and if you fall off of your skateboard, you just explode into a million pieces and basically restart at the beginning of that section of the archway path that you're on. It's not too big of an inconvenience, but you are extremely fragile in this game, and that was definitely intended. And I think it's a cool mechanic. I actually like that there's some punishment for really fucking up in the game. I think it was done very well here, and it really embodies skateboarding culture, right? If you skateboard, you're gonna take falls, and this game just makes that feel really punishing. Much better than, Skate from this year. That's a fucking absolute stinky pile of shit. So, I really dig that. Okay, so now that we got the gameplay kind of picked apart, we can start to dive further into some of the core aspects of the game, and we'll start with the visuals. I think this game looks really, really, really cool. I love the fact that the light refracts off of your character. The model looks really, really cool throughout the game, and of course it goes for a dark aesthetic, which I'm a big fan of. I love that type of aesthetic, and I think it works really, really well here. So I think the visuals are really, really cool, and they don't ever get old. Let's just put it that way. I think it does all of that stuff to a very high level. But that being said, I think this game's shining star is the sound effects and the music. I think the score of this game is absolutely phenomenal. And not only the music phenomenal, but the way that they swell the music up in certain instances really kind of builds hype within yourself. And they just do it at the perfect times all the time. It's crazy how well the sound, the score is implemented into this game, and it's done better than I think it's been done in any game I've ever played. So massive shout out to that. But even better than the score is the sound effects. Popping an ollie sounds absolutely spot on the money. Power sliding sounds great. Grinding on rails sounds great. They just nailed the sounds that a skateboarder would experience. This is very obvious. Sam Ing, the creator of this game, is a skateboarder, and he, injected this game full of skate culture. The ability to customize your decks, trucks, and wheels, and then add stickers to your board. I mean, that's straight out of skate culture, and it's amazingly done here. Not to shit on Skate from this year again, but Skate lacked all of the skater culture. This game has all of the skater culture. So if you're missing that, definitely consider checking out Skate Story. And now we got to move on to the thing that's probably going to get me spit roasted on the internet, but this is my review series, so my opinions are going to be what's experienced here, and they're not always the popular opinion. But I think the gameplay in this game is a little too complex for my fingers. As I get older, I'm starting to lose touch, I think, a little bit, and if a game has a really complex set of controls, I fucking struggle. So let me dive into that just a little bit further. So I want to start this whole conversation off by saying I think the game controls very well. I think the controls are very tight. There's not really any complaints from a base mechanic standpoint in this game for me. It starts to get a little bit more difficult for me once we get into some of the more advanced stuff, and I'm totally on board with the fact that this is a me problem. So this might not be your experience, but this was my experience, so I'm gonna share it. So let's talk about the trick system. The trick system is very unique in this game. Essentially how you perform tricks is you will press one of the bumpers or the triggers to initiate the start of a trick. This will pop open a timing circle or ring at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, and then you have to hit circle, and if you time it correctly and land in the perfect spot on that ring, you'll pop higher. So you don't have to hit the perfect timing. You'll still pop with enough height to complete the trick, but if you land in that spot, you'll be able to pop much higher to land on rails and things like that. And if you don't get the perfect timing, you're not going to hit those rails, and you're likely to crash. That's a basic trick. The advanced tricks are much more complex. It still requires triggers and bumper inputs, plus the circle button at the end to hit the timing. But to perform a tray flip, you have to hit the right trigger and then rapidly tap the left bumper twice. So right trigger, left bumper twice, and then you have to then land this, the circle input on that timing meter. It's very unlikely that you'll land perfect timings for a lot of the advanced tricks in the game, so they have to be done in very specific use cases where you don't need a lot of height to land on a rail, if that makes sense. The problem that I have with this system is that I feel like noodle fingers when I'm playing the game. It just becomes a spam fest of me trying different combos to try to land all these tricks to build up my combo in order to stomp it down for the most points. It's not necessary in this game, as we previously mentioned, but I like getting those combo strings. It feels good, so that's my issue. It just feels a little clunky for me because I'm getting more and more uncoordinated as I get older, I guess. So I just wasn't a big fan of the advanced trick mechanics in the game. Totally a personal thing. Now, on top of me fumbling with the controls, I feel like the advanced trick system is very counterintuitive with this game's flow state. What I mean by this is, on your way to the boss, you go through these corridors. And in these corridors, most of the time you're going very fast. We're talking like 60 miles an hour. Like you're fucking flying. So when you're doing these corridor sections and you're just popping tricks and stuff, you're flying down this tight, narrow space where if you hit the side of the edge of the screen, you're going to crash. And then on top of that, you're popping a timing-based trick mechanic. So you're watching your character, trying to land the tricks with that timing thing, and then you're, doing all the inputs. It's just a lot to handle, and it's a little too complex for my tastes. Again, that's all I'm going to say about it. I just feel like I wish the game was balanced more towards the flow state of skateboarding as opposed to all the crazy humbly jumbly shit. I don't know how I would fix that. Again, I'm not a game dev, and honestly I don't think I would fix it. I think it's fine the way it is. This is definitely just a personal issue for me. So take it or leave it. Now the last thing I want to mention is I want to revert back to what we talked about at the beginning, which is the story. The story wraps up actually very nicely here in this game. It gets its meaning across. It's got a much deeper meaning than what it shows on a surface level, which I very much appreciate. But I did walk away from the game a little confused, and this is always my problem. I have this issue with gaming stories. I always do. I think it's because I just don't get a lot of time to game, so my gameplay sessions are so segmented that it's hard to follow the cohesive story across the entirety of the experience. So I ended up having to play this 4-hour game in like 12 fucking sessions that were 45 minutes to an hour long. It's not the ideal way to play games, but that's how I have to as an adult with a full-time job and everything else. But you guys already know all that shit. So I left it feeling a little confused, and that sucks for me. But I understand the grand overarching, subtle story behind the game. I think it's a great story. It's just one of those things that was presented to me in such a strange way that I was kind of all over the place with it. So that leads us to the conclusion portion of the video where we rate the game from our patent pending S to Cheeks tier list, and I'm going to give this game a C. Feels a little bad giving it a C, but it would feel just as bad giving it a B. It's one of those games where it's kind of right in between the two. But I think it's closer to a high C than it is a low B. So it's going to get a C. And, if you don't have any issues with complex controls or with what I talked about in the control section doesn't bother you, then you'll probably rate this game much higher than I did. But gotta stay true to myself, and I keep it real here, so this is just gonna fall in the C tier. Other than that, though, I think if you like the gameplay, if you think the game looks cool visually, you're gonna have a lot of fun with it, and I would recommend playing it. I think it's well worth it if it's something that interests you, or if you're looking for some skate culture in 2025 and you didn't get it from EA Skate's new release. This would be a good option for you. But other than that, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching again. I love you all. I appreciate you all. Merry Christmas. This is going out on Christmas. Do you like my Christmas sweater? I fucking threw up all over this thing at our work Christmas party, but it all came out, so that's fucking a positive. Other than that, though, that's all I got. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate all of you so very much. We will have a year in review video coming out for you sometime in January. It's going to take a lot of time for me to put together, and I just haven't had time this month. So we will get to that. And then, of course, stay tuned. Podcast is fucking coming, dude. I promise. It's coming. It's getting put together as we speak. It's going to be cool. So stay tuned for that. Announcement coming soon. Other than that, I love you all. Take care of yourselves. We will see you guys on the next one.